In 2010, Jose Mourinho was back at the top of European football. He had taken Inter Milan to an extraordinary Champions League win, the third leg of a remarkable treble. And he was heading for the biggest club job in the world. "I am Jose Mourinho and I don't change," he declared at his Real Madrid unveiling in May 2010. "I arrive with all my qualities and my defects." Mourinho would prove good to his word, and this, in two parts, is the story of the next 3 years. The circumstances that brought Mourinho to the Santiago Bernabeu perfectly set the stage for what was to follow. In 2008, with Frank Rijkaard leaving his position at Barcelona, Mourinho was one of the final two candidates to replace him. Joan Laporta, with the blessing of Johan Cruyff, promoted and appointed Pep Guardiola instead, so beginning one of the great philosophical movements in European football. A year later, Florentino Perez returned as Real Madrid president and was confronted by the prospect, at the end of the following season, of Guardiola's all-conquering Barcelona winning a second successive Champions League title, and doing so at the Santiago Bernabeu of all places. Mourinho, by then at Inter Milan, had other ideas, upending Barca in a memorable semi-final and presenting himself, not unreasonably, as the answer to Guardiola's dominance. Of course, it wasn't quite that simple. Mourinho had been the subject of Madrid's interest for several years, but when he replaced Manuel Pellegrini in the summer of 2010, the dynamics of his rivalry with Barcelona and Guardiola had already been established. And it was tempting to see him as the missing piece in Madrid. The summer before, Real had spent a vast amount of money on Cristiano Ronaldo, Karim Benzema, Kaká and Xabi Alonso. And in 2010, that group was supplemented with further expenditure. Ángel Di María joined from Benfica, Mesut Ozil from Werder Bremen and Sami Khedira from Stuttgart. And save for a few strange incidents, that first season started well. Real refused the Portuguese FA's permission to install Mourinho as their national team's part-time head coach in September, and then he had the first of a series of fallings out with new signing Pedro León. A goalless draw with Levante also became deeply acrimonious, with Mourinho engaged in a slanging match with former player Asier Del Horno from the technical area on a night when one of Real Madrid's doctors was shown a red card by the referee. Nevertheless, 12 games into the season, Real were unbeaten and sitting happily at the top of La Liga. But then, the 13th game, away at Barcelona. Mourinho had designed a game plan that would see his side sit deep at Camp Nou, invite their opponents into space, and then attempt to hit them on the counter-attack. In reality, they were 2-0 down within 14 minutes, and completely lost. Shortly after half-time, after Ozil had been replaced by Lassana Diarra, Madrid were 3-0 down and on their way to a comprehensive 5-0 hiding, and what Mourinho would refer to in the press conference afterwards as the worst defeat of my career. It was the low point of a strange season. Mourinho would periodically chunter his disapproval of his centre-forward options, particularly after an injury to Gonzalo Higuain, and having been denied the signing of target man Hugo Almeida over the summer. The agitation provoked by the loss to Barcelona flared up again during and after a narrow win over Sevilla, following which he accused the game's referee of making 13 serious mistakes. Another theme was the deterioration of his relationship with sporting director Jorge Valdano, who would leave his role at the end of the season. In Diego Torres' biography of the period, he also claims that Mourinho, dissatisfied with the quality of the meat served at the Valdebebas canteen, instructed the club to sack their chefs and change their butcher. So it would be a fractious time. 2010-11 is best remembered for the 4 games between Real Madrid and Barcelona in 17 days. One in the league, which would end in a 1-1 draw, another in the final of the Copa del Rey, which would see a fabulous extra-time header from Ronaldo secure Mourinho's first silverware in Spanish football, and 2 more in the Champions League, which would become notorious. Barcelona would win the 2-legged tie 3-1 on aggregate, but it was a confrontation full of acrimony. Following the 5-0 earlier in the season, Mourinho's team had responded with increased aggression. They'd committed 29 fouls in the Copa del Rey final, and that became 30 in the second leg of the Champions League semis. In the first leg, one of their 21 fouls saw Pepe red-carded for an appalling tackle on Dani Alves, and for protesting, Mourinho was also sent from the bench. Barcelona built a 2-goal lead through goals from Lionel Messi, the second of which was a slaloming classic, but it was an acrid contest full of simulation, and which would prove an ugly moment in the Clasico rivalry. Following the game, which saw friends and teammates from the Spanish national team squaring up to each other, Mourinho launched into an extraordinary press conference monologue. "If I tell the referee and UEFA what I think and what I feel, my career ends today," he began, before questioning a litany of refereeing decisions in past Barcelona games and wondering aloud about why certain officials had been appointed to their games. At one point, he even mused whether Barcelona were receiving preferential treatment due to having UNICEF as their shirt sponsor. Needless to say, it was a tumultuous year. Before the season was over, Real would also suffer humiliating home losses to Sporting Gijón and Real Zaragoza, on the way to second place in La Liga. But while the return was still modest and the internal atmosphere frequently uncomfortable, Mourinho's team had still shown their power. They'd score 102 goals in La Liga alone in 2010-11, just as they had the year before under Pellegrini, and that hinted at a cohesion and style that was close to realisation. A 3-touch combination between Benzema, Ozil and Ronaldo against Murcia was proof of that chemistry. So too, an impudent Ozil flick for a Benzema goal against Ajax in the Champions League. Such potency was an indicator of what was to follow. So too, though, was the beneath-the-surface tension that had occasionally bubbled into view. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic brings you the best sports journalism in the world in a personalised experience, connecting you with the stories and teams that you care about the most. There's coverage of 13 sports, plus direct access to world-class journalists through live Q&As, discussions and podcasts. Not to mention, it's all ad-free. And you can try it now for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.